and by the time we bounce back up again, we are even better than before. And that is a big part about resilience. And of course, when we talk about the resilience project for today and on this Saturday, it has been brought together by our team so that we will be able to create more awareness. And I hope that by attending these 4 sessions, you'll be able to quickly adapt and increase your awareness ability for individual awareness and collective awareness. And so that we can continue to build individual resilience and collective resilience. And apart from that, we'll be able to learn some activities and interventions so that you can apply immediately for your daily practices, for your relationships, for your communication, and even for your workplaces. And of course, if you look at the point over here, there is a difference between having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Having a growth mindset means that we are trying to build ourselves to able to adapt to different possibilities, at the same time to be able to stay curious in these times. And of course, at the same time, we will be experiencing a lot of emotions, from negative emotions to positive emotions. And many people have reported that they have experienced stress, worry, fear, anxiety, depression, anger. But just to note that being resilient is like riding a bicycle. So on the bicycle, we have 2 pedals, and we need to ride through positive emotions, negative emotions, positive emotions, and negative emotions, so that we are able to progress in life. So we'll be covering a bit about that today. And so I would like to invite you to join me to explore our experts where they share their opinions concerning resilience. And in this webinar series, of course, it will be led by the first person, Jana Dawson. And Jana is a dear friend. She is a positive psychologist. She is a mindfulness coach. She's a corporate trainer, and she lectures at the School of Positive Psychology. She has a very warm personality, and she has a great story about personal resilience. And I hope that she will share that later with all of you. And apart from that, we have Dr. Jeremy Gwee, and Dr. Jeremy Gwee was a C-suite level leader who managed an MNC company, and now he's in the forefront of training leaders to using positive psychology and resilience concepts. And I look forward to hearing what Jeremy got to share later. And if you look at the bottom right of the screen, I know that Charlene has shared with you earlier. If you have any questions, please click that button, and so that you can key in your questions and comments so you could participate in the class. And that's all for now. So I hope that you enjoy the webinar series. Over to you, Jana.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Okay, I am unmuted. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for that lovely introduction, Stefan. It's an absolute pleasure to be here this evening and share a topic with you that I am extremely passionate about. But before I do that, I just want to do a shout out to all the students who are joining us this evening. You guys are awesome, and you are my biggest teachers, and thank you with deepest gratitude. So my name is Jana Dawson, and tonight I will be sharing with you on a topic of collective resilience. And we'll be looking at what is collective resilience and what are some of the things that we need to consider in order to be able to develop this collective resilience. I'm just going to share my screen with you now. So, okay, just give me 1 second. Sorry, guys. Okay, is that good? Okay, brilliant, thank you. Okay, so we're going to look at collective resilience, but before we go on to that, I would like to share a story with you that really inspired me and got me curious and made me think about what is collective resilience and how do I see it and how do we perceive it. So when I was 7 years old, I was actually picked up by a spaceship, and I was taken to a different planet. Well, at least that's what I thought at the time. What really happened was that I left a little country in Europe, in Yugoslavia, and I moved to Iraq, Baghdad. Now, remember this was a time when we didn't have technology. So my only knowledge of Middle East was really reading Aladdin and watching the Arabian Nights. Now, I vividly remember the strange smells and different people and the hustle and bustle of the souks. And there's one other little detail. Iraq and Iran were at war at the time. I suppose you could truly call it a hard shit posting. Life in Iraq was a model for what in today's world we would say the VUCA world. It was volatile, it was uncertain, it was complex, it was ambiguous, it was all of these things and then some. Now, I don't know if this might surprise you, but it was probably also the best time of my life. It was the first time that I saw human spirit at its best. And contrary to the popular traditional assumptions of human behavior in crisis, that people panic, that we're helpless, that we adopt this mob behavior and mob mentality, on the contrary, people have an enormous capacity to come together, to collaborate, and to help one another and support each other. So in Baghdad, in times of adversity and danger, everyone worked together, pooling their resources and looking after one another. We were creatively acquiring food, and in the midst of it all, we were laughing and keeping our spirits up. We developed collective resilience. We were, as a group, steering through and bouncing back daily challenges and the adversities. So I would like you to think of adversity that you're dealing with right now. And I'd like you to think of one strength that you have. It could be your top strength or not. And I'd like you to go to our Mentimeter and put in the ID and right now type up that one strength that you would use in times of adversity. Let's see what we can gather and how many strengths we can use and have them all pop up. I hope this is working, Charlene. Yeah, oh, brilliant. Okay, so we've got love of learning, we've got love, we've got courage, we've got detail and patience and kindness. And just look at this, we're just now creating a cloud of strengths. And I'd like you to think about how your strengths can be used. Maybe one of your two strengths. And I'm in no way saying that you cannot, as an individual, bounce back from adversity and be resilient. But think about it in this way. I'll give you another example. When the Gulf War started in Kuwait, the food became an issue. So it took one person with social intelligence who went out and previously already made friends with shop owners and could actually find a source of food. It took a person with courage to leave the safety of the apartment and go out there and get it. It took a person with fairness to then later split that food up equally. And then it took a person with strength of gratitude to shift everyone's focus from not having to having enough. So we were, as a group, leveraging on each other's strengths and at the same time keeping up with positivity. So just think about all these strengths that are popping up now, this amazing strength cloud that we are creating in our community tonight, and how we could use all of this and how much stronger we would be if we could use everyone's strengths together. So thank you for playing along, and look at that, patience is a big one, and compassion and faith and courage. And you can just see how all of these would play so beautifully. Okay, I'm going to go back to my screen now. Thanks, everybody. I hope we can capture this and share it later. So thank you so much for going through that with me. But the question is, what does all of this have to do with organizations? Because that is my topic. So I believe that in times of adversity, organizations have to step up and look beyond the individual and towards the collective. After all, organizations are a community of people working together. In other words, although we should always facilitate and enable individuals to develop strategies to maintain levels of the resilience, for an organization to really return to normal after extremely challenging times, or even go beyond that, it has to be a collective effort. We have to move away from this myth of collective vulnerability and start to really understand what it means to be collectively resilient. And what is collective resilience? So collective resilience simply is the capacity for a group or a community to return back to their well-being after a challenging time or an adversity. And according to studies, people who belong to a group that they perceive to have high levels of resilience are more likely to experience flourishing. So far, organizations have focused on providing resilience training for individuals. And I agree with that. I think efforts should continue throughout the crisis. However, I do believe that resilience is not just an individual's responsibility. I think to fully leverage and talents and strengths of their employees and all the members of the organization, as a whole, we have to develop strategies to build individual and collective resilience simultaneously. So I started exploring this concept of collective resilience, and I looked at social psychology and organizational psychology, and these are the factors that I have identified have an impact on the level of collective resilience. So there's shared identity to feed our psychological need to belong to a group, an agile mindset, right? A growth mindset that is adaptable and able to switch along with the circumstances in the volatile space. And also engagement. How can we engage employees through agency thinking, pathways thinking, building hope, using their own individual strengths so that they can be energized and not experience burnout in times of adversity? So unfortunately, I don't have the time to take you through the whole model today. So we will focus on what is shared identity, and I will share with you some of the tricks of how you can develop this. So how can we do this and what it is? So shared identity is created when we adopt a strengths narrative, when we build trust, and when we find collective meaning. So let's have a look at the strengths narrative first. Human beings need to make sense of the world and create shared meaning. And we do this through stories. Stories will help us make sense of our reality. It defines our reality and our context. In fact, according to research, dominant stories become your truth. So the question is, what stories are you telling in your organizations, and how are these stories making you feel? So I just want us to take a moment now and think about the last time when somebody pointed out your weaknesses to you. So just for a moment, go back to that time when someone pointed out your weaknesses to you. And I want you to connect with, how do they make you feel? And please, if you can, go into our chat and just put in, what is it, the feeling that you had at that time when somebody was pointing out your weaknesses? And I can't see the chat, unfortunately. I'm sorry, I'm trying to go to the chat to see the chat, but I don't think I can. Is it there?
Yep, it is, Jana.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh,
We're getting a lot of ashamed, sad, devastated, embarrassed.
I got it now. Thank you. Sorry, struggling with technology a little bit. I felt that I was useless, uncomfortable. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want everyone to just take a deep breath now and get rid of those negative feelings. And I want you to go back to the time when somebody acknowledged you, when somebody pointed out your strengths, and really try and go back to that moment and connect with what feeling that was for you like. What was the emotion that you were experiencing when someone saw your strengths? And can you type those into the chat? Thank you so much, guys. Okay, let's see. I can't see the messages. I don't know why. Can somebody read them out to me?
Yep, so overwhelmed, elated, valued,
Oh, yeah.
appreciated,
Oh my
motivated.
gosh, Joe's coming in, happy, fantastic. Yes. And so let me ask you, how much better would we be as a collective if this is the emotions that people were experiences on a regular basis, and how connected would we feel instead? So I just need to come back to my screen. Thank you so much, guys, for playing along with that, because I just want you to see the difference. So when it comes to organizations, sorry. Okay, got it now. All right, sorry. Why is it not connecting to my slides? Okay, I apologize, everybody. No, okay, just 1 second, please. I will maybe stop sharing screen and share again, huh? Sorry, guys. Okay, are we good, Karen? No? All right, sorry, guys, I'm so sorry. Let's just, I'm going to stop my share and then share again. Maybe that would help. Okay. Yes, fantastic. Thank you. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, so when we are approaching with so going back to our strengths. So when we work from strengths as an organization, the benefits are really three-pronged, right? We are building people's efficacy. Okay, we are energizing, and we're shifting the focus from the negative to the focuses. So on the collective level, it's going to benefit us so much, but we have to believe that people possess strengths. We have to understand that we all have something that we can contribute to the greater good. So the great thing about working with the strengths narrative is that we can then become creative, and we can find new solutions to old problems. So how do we do that? So going back to your organization and how you can identify that. So think of the last time that your organization performed really well. What did that look like? What are some of the strengths that were being displayed? Was it appreciation of excellence? Was it humility? Was it gratitude? How can you, once you identify these, you can make a list of all the strengths that you see in your organization. And your next step will be to then weave this into the narrative. And it becomes a story that you tell each other and share through different communication channels in your organization. So it's really worth taking the time and exploring the strengths of your team, of your organization. But just remember that in order for this narrative to work, first of all, it has to be authentic. And you have to truly believe that every single person possesses a strength that will contribute to the greater good of all. So through this strength finding, we can actually start building this concept of shared identity. So next, I would like to move on to trust, a huge, huge topic when it comes to building that. So lately, I've been talking to my friends who have been stuck in other countries, also in lockdown. And in those countries, there's a lack of transparency and lack of information coming from the government. They're sort of keeping the population on this need to know basis. So what happens when people lack information? They will naturally fill the gaps. We need to make sense of things. And using our negativity bias, so the information that is being circulated actually cultivates fear, anxiety, and mistrust. And it does the opposite of building collective resilience. It actually strips away individual resilience and puts people in this fight or flight mode where they just feel helpless. So often this fear that leaders or governments have that people will not be able to handle the information, that they will panic, that they will misbehave, leads them to withhold the information and have lack of transparency. But however, on the contrary, based on the research conducted for communities who were dealing with disasters like shootings or natural disasters, when you open these communication channels, people can actually be really rational and helpful and supportive and can actually be an asset in these situations. So when you're communicating, communicate what you know and what you don't know, but make sure that you stay transparent, vulnerable, and authentic, and kind of have this, we are all in this together attitude. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay for circumstances to change. And, you know, according to research, there are two types of trust. There's the emotional trust that we all have in varying degrees. And then there is the social trust. Now, social trust is based on us observing behavior and our experiences. And this can be built, and it comes from the mind as opposed to the heart. So how can we build this social trust so that we can start creating this shared identity? So first of all, when we experience social trust, we trust that the collective effort for the greater good of everyone, and we believe that each one of us is interested in the other's welfare. And lastly, we trust that before any action is taken, people will take consideration of everyone that's involved. So we're going to look at the 4 components of trust. One is competence. So competence basically means that you will do actions and that will be successful. So of course, not every action has to be successful. Sometimes we fail, but consistent failures will erode trust. Second is commitment. So being committed to the shared vision and the goal that everybody's aiming for. And next is caring. So what we talked about before, that all parties will be considered when decisions are being made. And lastly, we have commitment. So commitment is being committed to meeting expectations. And you know, circumstances change and nobody's expecting consistent behavior all the time. Like we had in Singapore, we weren't going to wear masks, and then we started wearing masks, but it was explained to us and we accepted that because it was still aligned with the set of values that we all believe in. So what we're going to do now, we're going to play around with technology, and I'm going to see if I can make this one work, is I would like you, there will be a poll popping up, and I'd like you to really think about which one of these components of trust is important to you. I'm sure all of them are important, but which one really jumps out at you and says, I really need this to trust people? So a poll will be coming up, and have a look at that, guys. And one of the reasons I'm asking you this is because every research we have to look in the cultural context. And this is a good time for us to explore what is it like in our culture, what's really important for people. Okay. Charlene?
Yeah, the poll results are coming in.
Okay, great. Let me know when you've got that. And let me know which one is coming up on the top, because I can't actually see the poll. Oh, I can see it now. Oh, commitment is coming up quite a bit. So while these poll results are coming in, I want you to really consider how is commitment important in your team and in your organization? How are you showing, for example, commitment to other people? And what are your expectations of commitment from people on your team? Yeah, I think we've got that. I think commitment is the winner, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I'm just going to try and go back to my slide share. It's not doing it again. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, everybody. I think I have to stop share and then share again for some reason. You know what? I'm just going to do it here. That's fine. Okay, I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm just going to do it manually. It's much, much easier. So think about how you're going to develop trust in terms of commitment. So lastly, we're going to look at find meaning. So how can we find collective meaning in our organizations? So I'd like you to invest some time in developing a shared vision. It's really worth it to get everybody behind the same vision. So involve all the members to dream up a picture of what your organization will look like when you are back to normal after adversity. And even more so, encourage them to go beyond normal and try to think about what your organization will look like once you are thriving. How are you communicating when that happens? What are the strengths that you're displaying? What are the relationships like? What are the projects like? What's the energy like? What are the emotions being experienced? All these things will help us dream up. So one of the things that you can also do is ask for sources of meaning. So what are some of the sources of meaning? What do we stand for? What do we believe in? And what are our sources of meaning? Now, sources of meaning do not have to be huge existential things. It could be simple things like rituals that you have, like Friday pizza nights or social connections before meetings or coffees. But identify those so that you can continue doing them and maintain that concept of meaning for everybody and have the shared identity. So just to wrap it up, in order for us to have shared identity, we have to adopt a strengths narrative, we have to build trust, and we have to find collective meaning. But like I said before, this is just one of the components of building collective resilience. And really to leverage on all our resources and strengths, we have to consider all of these factors and work on collective resilience. Now, you don't have to be in a war zone. You don't have to have scarcity of food. You don't have to even be facing adversity to be leveraging on collective resilience. What you really need is just to believe that together we are stronger. So I just want to wrap it up with this, and thank you very much. And I apologize for my technical difficulties, but this is what resilience is all about, bouncing back from challenges. And please put in your Q&A for our panel. And I'm going to hand over to Dr. Jeremy Gwee now. So thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Jana, for the great talk.
Thank you. I'm just going to stop sharing screen, theoretically. I think I was a bit too ambitious here. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jana. So we shall now invite Dr. Jeremy Gwee to come on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just holding on for him to
Can you
come
see
on.
me?
I cannot see you right now.
My video is on. Maybe I'll stop share. Can you see me, Charlene?
No, unfortunately, your video is off to me.
Can you see me?
No.
But can you see my screen? Can you see my
I was able to see your screen share, but not your video screen.
Okay, it's all right.
Yeah.
Let me then carry on. And then we'll solve that later. Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Is it clear? Can you all see the slides?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can see the slides.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Jeremy,
And,
maybe you want to maximize your slides because it's on, yeah.
Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So good evening. Thank you, Jana, for that introduction into collective resilience. And good evening, everybody. And thank you for spending time with us this evening on the Resilience Project. So Jana has spoken about collective resilience. And, you know, on this topic about leadership resilience, leaders are a very important part in this whole concept. It's a very important building block in the collective resilience concept. Because without the leaders being resilient, then collectively, the people in an organization, in a family, in a community, they would not be resilient. So when we speak about leadership resilience, okay, the first thing that comes to mind of many people actually is the word leadership. And for many of us, leadership can mean different things to different people. So this evening, to start off, what is leadership? And we will have a poll as to what is leadership. And you will find that is leadership all about establishing a direction or to give directions towards a desired vision or future or desired state? Secondly, it can be about it is about giving hope. Or is it about giving hope? Thirdly, is it about creating followership? That means having people to follow you, because you cannot be a leader without followers. And is it about transforming vision into reality? Or is it all of the above? So as you are keying in your answer, right, and you will see all of you agree that no leader can actually not do any of the above. Okay, it is impossible to lead without setting a direction. It is impossible to lead without giving hope. It is impossible to lead if you do not have followers, and it is impossible to lead if people do not see you as the one being able to transform vision into reality. So we spoke about very quickly about resilience, and at the beginning of Stefan's introduction, there is a lot of definition out there about resilience, and we have taken this particular definition from Ilona Bonniwell about what resilience is all about. And when you look at this concept of resilience, it means that resilience is a process. It is not an event. It is not something that you know, like now you have a crisis and all of a sudden you can have a formula and you follow that formula and then you become resilient. It is a process. It is a process of actually adapting to the adversity. And in that process, you actually have to learn to cope with the difficulties. And so when you look at resilience, resilience is a key leadership trait. There is no negotiation about it. There is no negotiation about it. If you are a leader and if you say you're a leader and you're not resilient, you cannot lead. Like Nelson Mandela says, in fact, it defines you. Your resilience defines you as a leader. So Nelson Mandela, the first African president of South Africa, says, "Do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and I got up again." So why is resilience important? Is it because a leader must lead only in good times and in bad? Is it because a leader should be self-controlled? Is it because a leader, or all leaders, okay, all leaders must have it? Is it because of all of the above? Right? Is it all of the above? So if you are a leader, are you a leader just for the good time and the bad times? Or are you a leader who is only self-control? Or is he a leader because all leaders must have it? Okay, why is he important? Or all of the above? So we all know resilience for every leader is a non-negotiable trait. But then when we look at resilience, right, you get triggered. You get triggered into a emotion. You get an emotional trip. Something causes your confidence to fall. Something causes you to go into hopelessness. Something causes you to lose your faith. So what events do you think can disrupt you from your leadership? You need not be a leader at home. You need not be a leader just in the office. You're a leader also at home. If you are a father, you're a mother, single parents, you're a member of the community. So long as you perform any of the roles in leadership, giving hope, setting directions, creating followers, right? All of these things, yes. In fact, as you all put up the list, as you all put up the list, you will discover that the list is endless. Anything can disrupt us from our calm. Anything can disrupt us from our composure. We don't know what will trigger us next. That is what we call the unknown unknown. Right. Let us get back to the slide. Let me see how I can get back to the slides now. Okay. Let me stop viewing that and let me go back to share my screen. Yes. Okay. Right. So when we look at, we have to be aware that things will cause us to just trip, right? And it is the unknown unknowns that we have got to look out for. So when we talk about leadership resilience, it is actually crisis leadership, right? And this quotation, this quote that I got from Steve Adubatal is something which I think would resonate with many of you. Let me read it. Leaders have no right to expect others to have a positive attitude, to deal with difficult circumstances or challenges, or basically work in a collegial manner. That's the collective resilience that Jana was talking about. If they too often lose it and do not lead themselves with a sense of calm and we are all in this together approach. So when we talk about leadership resilience, that resilience comes when the tire hits the road. That resilience comes when there is a crisis. That resilience comes when one of the events that can disrupt your leadership tranquility, your leadership stability, your leadership style at that point in time, what always have gone right did not go right. That's the time when you earn your salary as a leader. So how do we then become resilient leaders? There are many leadership theories that we look at. Most leadership theories actually teach us about leadership performance. Right? So some of the books like 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, for example. Who on earth can remember 21 laws of irrefutable leadership? Impossible. And you look at the books, number of books on leadership, the number of definitions on leadership, everything puts demand on the leader. Very demanding, okay? But then, when you are in a position and when you need to develop, one of the best models that I look at is actually this model by James Scala, to say that in any leadership development, whether it's leadership in the office, in the family, in the community, wherever, it starts with the self. And we must not be shy about investing in ourselves. We must not be shy about taking care of ourselves. We must not be shy about telling people we love ourselves. We must not be shy at all, because it is for our sanity. It starts with us first. If you get up the plane and you hear the safety announcement, the first thing they say is that in an emergency, you take care of yourself first before you take care of the next person. So likewise, you take care. So in this particular model that we see, the personal part comes first, then the private part. The private space of leadership is where you have one-to-one relationship with people. If you as a leader cannot develop that one-to-one relationship, you cannot move into the public sphere. You cannot move into the sphere where you can deal with one-to-many. That's where Jana's collective resilience comes in. The leader must start first. The identity, the shared identity, the trust, and so forth comes from the self. Self to one and to many. So Peter Drucker, those of you who are from my century, okay, will know him. He is a very well-known management guru, and if you have not read his book, read some of his books. Peter Drucker, they are fantastic, okay? They have taught me throughout my management career. I've kept them close to me. Cultivate a deep understanding of yourself. not only what your strengths and weaknesses are, but also how you learn, how you work with others, what your values are, and where you can make the greatest contribution. Because only when you operate from strength can you achieve true excellence. So as a strength coach, I would tell people there is no weakness. It is your misplaced strength. So focus on your strength and not what you are, and not those that are not your strength. And all of us, many of us here who have studied positive psychology under Ilona, would have come across this particular model called SPARK, which is understand yourself with SPARK. And the SPARK model, my friends, is a fantastic model. I have loved it since the day I learned it, because you could use it as the basis to apply many, many other things, because it helps you to understand yourself. And as we put together, as this project was put together in this resilience project, one of the points that Stefan pointed out earlier was about emotional regulation and calm focus. And when you think of the SPARK model is actually to achieve this emotional regulation and calm focus. It is in a stress mode, when things happen, when things disrupt your leadership, that your mind, you have a perception to interpret what has happened. You feel what has happened, you react to what has happened. But many a times, what do? We just react. We forget to actually document, to actually journal, to actually register how our reaction was and learn from that. SPARK is a great model for us to learn about ourselves, particularly in terms of our emotional regulation and calm and focus. So J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, says, the knowledge that you have emerged wiser and stronger from setbacks means that you are ever after secure in your ability to survive. That is the confidence that you want to get out from SPARK. That is the optimism that you want to get out from SPARK. From SPARK to optimism to resilience. From SPARK to optimism to resilience. And here resilience has got eight pieces: optimism, positive attitude, emotional sanity. I will go through this in the next slide. But SPARK brings you to this point because the first starting point is that of optimism. And we learn from Martin Stiglman, this thing, if you have not read the book, Learn Optimism, take a look. Take a read at it. It's a very good book to tell us that we can actually learn optimism. Learn from what you have done well. Learn from your strength. This is a can-do attitude. Can-la. In Singapore, we say can-la. Right? It is from optimism that arises the can-do attitude. It is then that you learn your emotional sanity. And that is your positive communication. Positive conversation. Having conversations that matter. These are all skills that need to be learned. That's why to learn this requires personal commitment, requires personal investment, then self-control, doing the right thing when you don't feel like it, forgiving when you don't feel like forgiving, loving when you don't feel like loving. That's the self-control. Social support is important. You got to know your family, you got to know your friends, which is a very big topic, both family, friends, community, because of the social nature in us, of how we are wired to be social creatures. We need to have a sense of humor. Laughter is the best medicine. Laugh at life's frustration. And you need to believe in yourself. You need to have your self-confidence. you need to have self-esteem. This belief, I do not know. There are some people who insist that you cannot believe in yourself. You must, regardless of what people say. You must look yourself in your mirror and say, I am who I am, and I'm going to be who I am. Everything at my time and the way I want to do it, because that's your strength. And last but not least, you got to be adaptable. And I stole this line from NLP that teaches us adaptability. The one who is most flexible is always in control. This has always been my leadership mantra throughout my years in management. When people say that you need to listen to people and you cannot just be so open, so empathetic if you are not flexible. That means to say you are prepared to even say, okay, I'm wrong, let's go your way. I will still carry the buck. When you have these things together, in a crisis, you guys all know, in a crisis, nobody likes to be a leader. Because in a crisis as a leader, the only thing that can happen to you is that people will throw stones at you. It will be a time where every decision you make, everybody will say, you know, you should have done that, you know, you should have listened to me. And those are your moments of leadership disruptions. Those are your moments where your resilience must step in. So in conclusion, resilience is a non-negotiable leadership trait. And people never write this in their advertisements for even managers, okay? Leadership is all about these things. Whether you are a father, a parent, a single, community, anywhere you go, you cannot deny that you have never been a leader. You cannot deny that, because all of us in all our lives, we have all taken these roles. We have done all these things. And the key to effective leadership is the leadership resilience, because in time of need, people look to you and you cannot be the one trembling. In times, it is a psychological quality that enables a person to adapt to the events in their work life and start with spark. How? Start with spark. Develop optimism and become resilient. And a quote from our resilience project. People who are resilient, by great definition, are aware of situations, their own thinking, emotional reactions, the behavior of themselves and those around them. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Jeremy Gwee, for the great presentation. And then at this point of time, we're going to go to the Q&A. Let me see. Okay, hi everyone. I hope you can see me. I can see you. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Jeremy Gwee. So I'm going to go to the Q&A part of things, and I'm looking at two. One is Q&A box and one is the chat box. So I'm trying to navigate.
Yeah, I do not know why. Can you all see me, because I'm blind here? Something wrong in the video.
No, we cannot see you, but we can hear your voice. I think that
okay, that's good enough. That's good enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. So okay, let me go to the pop. Let me try to answer one question. Okay, so we have one question from the floor, and it's by Jeng, J-E-N-G, and he or she is asking that we know that crisis doesn't change. They don't change, come by surprise. What are some of the things that we need to consider? What are the practical steps we need to take to adapt and adjust well? Maybe I will ask this question to Jana.
Thank you, Stefan. Yeah, that's a great question. So what are the steps we need to take? Well, I would go back to the strengths. So I would go back to, first of all, know what strengths you have, understand what resources you have that will keep replenishing you throughout the adversity. So I'd like to think of it as a resilience reservoir. So you know that when crisis comes, this reservoir will get drained. So what are the things that you need to do to keep replenishing that reservoir? So have a think about it and engage in that self-care or team care. And I often get the teams to really say like, okay, what is it that replenishes your energy when things are hard? So knowing these things, it's really, really important. And I think I'd like to add just one more thing is in times of adversity, the way you can prepare is really knowing what you can control and things that matter to you, so that you're not then wasting your energy on things that you can't control, because it's just going to drain you. So I think those are the three things that I would really look at. So strengths, things that replenish you, so look after your well-being, and also having a real understanding of things you can control.
Okay, thank you, Jana, for that great answer. And so let me, in the interest of time, let me go through the questions. Let's take one more question from the floor. So there's quite a number of them. I think it's related to leaders. So maybe I could, one question from Crystal. I'm so sorry that I can't answer all the questions due to the interest of time. So Crystal is asking, how does a leader in this crisis face employees, bracket teachers, who are burnt out, anxious, and, oh, where did it go? Anxious coming back to work. So let me repeat it again. How does a leader in this crisis face employees who are teachers, who are burnt out and anxious coming back to work? How would be the things that a resilient leader must take consideration first? I'll pose this question to Dr. Jeremy Gwee.
Thank you, Stephen. Sorry, Stephen. I think I still have problems with my video, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Right. I think here, there's a saying by Peter Drucker. I'm trying to remember the exact words of it. But when you have burnout, this sort of situation around it, as a leader, as a resilient leader, you have to be the one, in spite of all that is happening, you have got to be the one that is most energetic, most optimistic. That's number one. You got to be seen as the one optimistic. If your people complain, don't complain along with them. Never complain along with them, because that is negative language. Use positive language. People, we will get through this together. People never even use the word, this is hard times, but we will get through it. Just tell them, we will get through this together. We are all in this, and we will all get through this. Therefore, let us focus on our work. Let us together help each other. Put it in, bring the group energy, this thing that Jana said about collective resilience. Bring the energy into the group, and that's when you come out of such situation. I know what you're talking about. I know I can identify with you, because my wife is a teacher at home, struggling with technology to teach home-based learning, right? And if you got no friends around you, no colleagues who actually support you, you feel totally exhausted. And yesterday, when they heard that they are going to have another 4 weeks, the teachers were all totally checked out, right? They were exhausted. So in such circumstances, positive words matter. In such circumstances, you got to be seen smiling. Even though you are dripping, you have got to smile. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jeremy Gwee. So I think we have more questions from everyone, but due to interest time, we cannot take any. So we'll go to the last part of the webinar. And let me share this part here quickly, if you can see. So thanks for joining us. For those of you who are still keen, and I hope that you learn a lot of nuggets of wisdom for resilience. And due to this crisis, the School of Positive Psychology has put together a program called REACH. And the word REACH stands for REACH. It stands for resilience, emotion management, actions, connections, and habits. And we have identified that these are the 5 pillars that is very important to help us navigate through this crisis, and it will impact directly to our well-being. So of course, these programs being put together by scientific evidence and applications, and this will be a great tool. So how does it really work? This program is 5 days long, 1 hour each day. It's self-paced learning. So you go to do resilience first before you go to emotions management, to actions, and then to connections and habits. You can register by clicking the form, the link over there, engagetSPP.com. I think that you'll be up in the group chat. So, and these are the way that we hope to create more content to give it to you. And of course, these content are put together and good for personal development and leadership development. So I'd like to thank all of you to be here today. And I'd like to thank a special shout out to Jana, Dr. Jeremy Gwee for gracing us your time, and also for Charlene for setting this up, and for everybody who have taken your time to join us. And for those of you who have missed this event, please join us for this Saturday. This Saturday is going to be at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. We're going to talk about we could talk about resilience for communication and also parenting resilience by Srivan and Haas, two great energetic speakers and teachers. So I hope that you will join us in this REACH program and also join us this Saturday. And on behalf of the School of Positive Psychology community, welcome and thank you for the dedication. And I hope that you will join us to create a resilient community together. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Are we going to stay on?
No, it's okay. You can leave now.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you,
Thank you so
Jana,
much.
for the awesome, great discussion. I really like the tips that you share. I took a lot of notes down when you share it also.
Okay, good. Okay, good night then.
Thank you,
Take
Jeremy.
care.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, there's one thing, you want to consider, Charlene, is that those questions we don't answer, that we have not answered, can you give it to me? I may want to take some time to answer some of those questions, and in your blogs or anything, you can actually use and put there on the blog. So
Yeah, it's a great idea. I will actually find a way to save all these questions in the Q&A.
Yeah.
And
I think that will be very that will be very that will be very helpful for them. Yeah, some good questions. Yeah.